Every forgotten corner holds a secret waiting for the right pair of hands to turn the lock. It started on an ordinary afternoon, the kind where you set out to clean up a long-neglected space and end up lost in the remnants of time. Tucked inside an unmarked box at the back of an attic sat a vinyl record. No jacket, no printed label, just a blank, aged piece of paper in the center with a single word handwritten in faded blue ink. Untitled. When the needle hit the groove, there was no burst of static or harsh distortion, just a soft, warm hiss, followed by a melody so striking it immediately stopped the room cold. It wasn't a commercial hit from the radio. It wasn't a classic song everyone recognizes. It was intimate, raw, and undeniably brilliant. Who recorded this? Where did it come from? And why was a piece of music this beautiful left to gather dust in the dark? To solve a mystery built on sound, you first have to look at the physical clues. Vinyl records carry fingerprints of their era that go far beyond the music itself. The weight of the disc, a thick, heavy 180-gram pressing, instantly suggested this wasn't a cheap, mass-produced record from the late 80s. The deep, wide grooves pointed toward an earlier time, likely the late 1960s or early 1970s. Etched into the runout matrix near the center ring was a tiny hand-carved serial code, ST04A. That simple code changed everything. It meant this wasn't an acetate disc cut at home on a lathe. It was pressed in a professional plant, produced in a real studio, and likely meant for a release that, for some reason, never actually happened. The search was no longer just about identifying a tune. It was about uncovering an abandoned piece of history. The next step led to the people who spent their lives living behind mixing boards and analog tape machines. Taking the record to a local vintage audio restorer revealed subtle nuances only a trained ear could spot. The reverb on the piano wasn't digital. It had the distinctive, rich decay of an old plate reverb unit popular in custom mid-century studios. The acoustic guitar sitting beneath the melody had the warm, unmistakable tone of a vintage ribbon microphone. Every technical detail pointed to a mid-70s session recorded in a small, independent studio, a place built on passion rather than corporate budgets. A deep dive into local press archives from that era brought up mentions of small, short-lived recording spaces in the area, boutique studios that hosted touring musicians, local songwriters, and late-night jam sessions that were never meant for commercial radio. Connecting with local historians and veteran musicians eventually brought one story back to the surface, a legend whispered among collectors for years. In the autumn of 1974, a traveling musician had passed through town. According to local lore, he booked a single late-night session at an independent studio down by the harbor. He wasn't looking for a record deal or radio airplay. He simply wanted to capture one specific song he had composed during his travels before moving on. He recorded the track live in a single take. No overdubs, no second tries. A handful of test pressings were made that night. But before the official release could be finalized, the studio closed its doors permanently, and the master tapes were lost in a liquidation sale. The musician drifted on, leaving behind only a few unmarked pressings scattered across private collections and forgotten attics. We live in an age where almost every piece of information, every song, and every creator is cataloged, tagged, and searchable within seconds. But finding a piece of music like this reminds us that some of the best art exists entirely outside the system. This unnamed melody was never uploaded to an algorithm, never pushed to a chart, and never tied to a brand. It was simply created out of a pure desire to capture a moment in time. The name on the label might stay blank, but as long as the needle finds the groove, the song lives on.